Normally when we think about counting, it is just, it's the most fundamental grounding thing we can possibly do.
Right, yeah.
It's binary, it's safe. You count the apples in a basket, or like you count the steps up to your front door, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, exactly.
It's pure objective reality. I mean, you literally can't argue with a number.
You really can't. It's the absolute bedrock of logic. And I think, honestly, it is incredibly comforting to us because it implies absolute boundaries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It implies that a thing can be measured, right? Like it can be categorized and fully comprehended by the human mind. Basically, if you can count it, you can control it.
Which feels great until you step into the world of ancient mysticism, specifically, the architecture of the divine. And suddenly, counting isn't just counting anymore.
Not at all. It becomes incredibly dangerous, conceptually speaking.
Right. Suddenly, simple mathematics becomes this wild psychological trap. You try to count to 10, and if you miss, if you accidentally count to 9 or maybe 11, the entire foundational structure of how you perceive the infinite universe basically it collapses in on itself.
It is the absolute definition of a conceptual minefield. You are walking on this incredibly thin tightrope where mathematics and theology intersect,
Yeah.
And a single misstep in your counting completely alters and frankly destroys your entire perception of reality.
Which is exactly why we are here today. So welcome everyone to today's deep dive. I'm your host and I am so thrilled you are joining us today.
I'm your resident expert, and I have to say this is one of the most intense pieces of text we've ever covered.
It really is. We have a truly mind-bending mission ahead of us today. We are embarking on a meticulous, intensely thorough exploration of just one single chapter, actually. It's really just one specific verse from Aryeh Kaplan's translation and commentary on the Sefer Yetzirah.
Right, also known as the Book of Creation.
Exactly, and for those following along at home, we are specifically unpacking the incredibly dense, profoundly complex verse known as 1.4.
Yeah, this is the exact moment where the text stops being just, theoretical and starts actively demanding things from the reader.
It really does demand a lot, but before we open the book and actually start decoding this ancient manual, I need to take a quick second for a very special, really high-energy shout-out.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We have been seeing an absolutely massive influx of new followers over on Ben Hod's TikTok channel.
It's been wild to watch that grow.
So wild. To all of you who have just joined the community over there, welcome. We see you. We completely appreciate you, and we really want to keep that momentum going.
We definitely do.
So if you are listening to this deep dive right now, do us a huge favor. Head over to Ben Hod's TikTok. Make sure to heart the videos, share them with anyone who loves a really good deep dive, save them for later, and please leave a comment.
Yeah, the comment section over there is just fantastic.
We literally read every single comment, I mean it. Your engagement is what keeps this whole engine running for us.
And honestly, the discussions happening in those comments are often just as fascinating as the source material itself. It's a brilliant community of people who actually want to think deeply about this stuff.
They really do. So go heart, share, save, and comment. But all right, let's transition back to the text we have in front of us today, because I really want to set the stage for you.
Okay, let's do it.
This single verse 1.4 of the Sefer Yetzirah, isn't just some, poetic, philosophical musing. According to Kaplan's commentary, it contains the literal keys to understanding divine architecture.
Which is a huge claim.
A massive claim. It maps out the actual hemispheres of human consciousness, and it explains the very mechanical gears of how the spiritual and physical worlds interact with each other.
And what's fascinating here is that to even grasp this, we have to change our entire approach to reading. Like, we are not just reading a book of abstract theology today. We are actively decoding a manual for inner sight. This text is going to aggressively challenge our fundamental assumptions about how we think, how we perceive the physical reality around us, and how we attempt to define the infinite.
It raises the stakes, right? From just passive reading to active cognitive rewiring.
Exactly. It's an instruction manual for your brain.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to rewire our cognition, we first have to understand the boundaries of the system this book is describing. And that brings us right back to that mathematical trap I mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
The counting problem.
The counting problem, exactly. Verse 1.4 opens with this very specific line. It says, 10 sephiro of nothingness, 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11.
It sounds like a riddle. Or maybe a very stern warning from a mathematics teacher who is just completely fed up with their students rounding numbers.
Right, like 10, and I mean 10. Don't you dare give me 9 or 11. But Kaplan's commentary breaks this down, and it is entirely about how we categorize God.
Yes, and this is so foundational.
Now, since you, our listeners, already know that the Sephirah are the divine emanations, basically the structural framework through which the infinite interacts with the finite world, Kaplan jumps straight to the most advanced implication of that entire framework.
He doesn't pull any punches.
He doesn't. The text is explicitly warning us here. God, referred to in the text as Ein Sof, the infinite being, belongs to a fundamentally different category than these 10 Sephiros. God simply cannot be counted among them.
And this is exactly where the warning of not 11 comes into play. Because if we connect this to the bigger picture of the mystical journey, you have to imagine a mystic who is meditating.
Okay, picture the mystic.
Right. They are climbing this incredible, complex spiritual ladder. They are ascending through these 10 Sephiros, experiencing profoundly higher and deeper layers of reality with every step.
Sounds amazing so far.
It is, but the danger is that as they reach the highest, most sublime level they can possibly perceive, the 10th Sephirah, they might mistakenly think they've hit the ultimate ceiling.
Oh, I see.
They look around and think, I have reached God himself.
Right, they think they finally found the top floor of the building, so they just assume the landlord must live there.
That is a perfect way to put it. So the text is stepping in and saying, look, if you count God as the 11th step on that ladder, you've just dragged the infinite into a finite sequence.
You've made the infinite basically just another number.
Exactly. You've placed a boundary on the boundlessness. The Sefer Yetzirah intercedes and firmly says no. There are only 10 steps on this ladder, and God is absolutely not the 11th step.
Wow.
By insisting on 10 and not 11, the text establishes this permanent, completely impenetrable firewall. The Creator is always, always beyond our grasp.
So he cannot be lumped into a sequence of spiritual achievements. Like, if you think you've grasped God, you simply haven't. You've just grasped the highest Sephirah.
Yes, it's a built-in humility check for the mystic. You can climb forever, but you are never, ever going to grab the infinite.
That is so intense. But then we have the other side of the warning, right? The 10 and not 9 part. And this one feels even more insidious to me because it deals heavily with how we project our own human psychology onto the divine.
It's a much easier trap to fall into, honestly.
It is. Kaplan explains it brilliantly by looking at our human faculties. Like, the highest faculty a human being possesses is will.
Right, volition, the drive to do anything at all.
Exactly. And in the system of the Sephirah, will corresponds to the very first highest Sephirah, which is called Keter, or the crown.
It's the ultimate driving force. Before any actual thought happens, before any intellectualizing or emotion or physical action takes place, there's simply the raw will to act.
Right, so human nature being what it is, we desperately try to describe God using terms we understand, right? We want to put a label on it.
We want to make God relatable.
Yes, so we want to say things like, well, God is pure will, or God is pure love, or pure wisdom. But Kaplan points out this massive logical flaw. If we say God is pure will, we are essentially saying God is identical to Keter, that first Sephirah.
And that is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem. Because if God is well, wait a minute. God created Keter. You've just collapsed the Creator completely into the creation.
You've merged them.
Right. You've merged God into the first Sephirah, which leaves only 9 distinct Sephirah remaining in your count. Hence the strict warning 10 and not 9.
Which is a massive structural theological error in this system. It completely breaks the entire architecture you were trying to understand.
It just shatters it.
It does.
Yeah.
Because Keter, even as the absolute highest Sephirah, is still merely a creation. It is infinitely inferior to God. You just cannot say God is pure will, because will is simply a tool he created.
So there is literally no word, no human trait, no abstract quality at all that can be used to describe God's actual essence.
None. To zero.
You know, it feels like, let me try an analogy here. It's like trying to describe the ocean using only the properties of a fishing net.
Oh, I like that.
Right. You throw the net into the water, you catch some fish, you pull it up, and it's dripping wet. The net, which in this analogy represents the Sephio, is literally the only tool we have to interact with the water.
Right. You can't hold the ocean in your hands.
Exactly. But you would never, ever say, oh, the ocean is made of knotted rope. The net captures the effects of the ocean, it interacts with it, but the net is fundamentally not the ocean.
That analogy hits the nail right on the head. And this strict separation we were talking about is a profound theological safety net.
No pun intended with the net analogy, right?
Yeah, exactly. By rigidly separating the Creator From these created emanations, Kabbalah actively prevents the human mind from committing what is basically idolatry of the intellect.
Idolatry of the intellect. Wow.
Yeah, it stops us from placing limiting abstract human qualities onto an entirely limitless entity. Because the moment you define the infinite, it stops being infinite.
Which brings us directly to the term Ein Sof itself, which literally translates to the infinite. Kaplan highlights something crucial here that I think completely changes how we generally think about infinity.
It's a paradigm shift for sure.
It is. When we hear the word infinity today, we almost always think of just a really, really big number, right? Like a destination that is just super far away down the road.
Like if you just kept counting long enough, you'd eventually get there.
Right. But the text asserts that infinity is actually a direction. It is a vector. It points away, but it is definitively not a goal that can actually be reached.
It's an asymptote.
Yes. You can climb higher and higher, reaching toward infinity forever, but you never, ever attain it. The exact same is true of the infinite Ein Sof.
This creates a really beautiful tension in the text. You are openly invited to explore the system infinitely, but you are strictly barred from ever claiming you have conquered it.
The boundaries are set.
They are. The system is 10. It is a fixed framework. But what lies beyond that framework is permanently unreachable.
Okay, so the text has very clearly established the ground rules. Rule 1. The infinite is unknowable and completely separate from the 10 Sephirah.
Right.
But if we can't comprehend the infinite directly, our only option is to learn how to navigate these 10 Sephirah, right? Like we have to learn how to use the fishing net.
We do. We absolutely have to. But here's the major rub standard. Everyday human thought is completely unequipped to handle the Sephirah.
Wait, really? Unprepared how?
Well, our baseline cognitive operating system, the way you and I are thinking right now, just cannot process them. It's the wrong hardware for the software.
Right, our brains are basically formatted wrong for this mystical software.
Right.
Which leads us perfectly to the next instruction in the verse, which actively demands a radical shift in our mental state.
And it doesn't ask nicely either.
It doesn't. The text just says, understand with wisdom. And Kaplan takes this short phrase and completely blows it open, bringing in actual cognitive mechanics alongside the ancient mysticism.
It's a perfect example of how these ancient texts often intuit deeply complex psychological truths long before modern neuroscience ever caught up.
It really is staggering. So Kaplan breaks down the two Hebrew words used here. Let's look at them. The first is bina, which translates to understanding, and the second is chakma, which translates to wisdom.
But he assigns them very specific, highly operational definitions for the mystic trying to do this work.
Yes, let's lay these definitions out really clearly, because this is where the rubber meets the road for anyone listening. Understanding, or bina, is defined as verbal thought.
Right, the internal monologue.
Exactly. It is heavily associated with the left hemisphere of the brain. It's the normal everyday reverie where you are talking to yourself, organizing your ideas, conceptualizing your grocery list, or just narrating your day as it happens.
It's the voice in your head. I like to call it the inner sportscaster.
The inner sportscaster.
Yeah.
That is perfect. It's always giving play-by-play. Now, whereas wisdom, or chakma, is defined as pure nonverbal thought.
A completely different state of being.
Completely. It is associated with the right hemisphere of the brain. It is a state of consciousness where the mind is completely engaged, utterly awake, but absolutely not engaged in any kind of reverie.
There is no inner monologue whatsoever.
None. There are no words. It is just pure, holistic apprehension of the moment.
And this brings up the ultimate psychological trap that I think you, meaning anyone listening to this deep dive right now, have absolutely experienced if you've ever tried to sit down and meditate.
Oh, 100%. Everyone hits this wall.
They do. Kaplan talks about the extreme difficulty of actually achieving this chakma consciousness. He says, the very moment a person attempts to clear their mind of thought, what happens?
They immediately begin to think, oh, hey, I am not thinking of anything.
Exactly. And boom, you've lost it. You're right back in that verbal bina consciousness instantly.
It's instantaneous. You literally verbalize the absence of verbalization, which completely defeats the entire purpose of the exercise.
The left brain is just so desperate to maintain control that it insists on narrating its own silence.
It's the classic don't think of a pink elephant paradox. It's like your brain is a sportscaster that refuses to just stop calling the game for even a second.
Right, you tell it to stop talking, and it immediately grabs the mic and says he's now stopping his use of words.
Yes, so my big question is, how does anyone actually achieve this state? Like, if the brain is constantly obsessively trying to narrate the experience, How do you ever access the Sephirah?
Well, the Sefer Yetzirah doesn't just leave us hanging. It provides a very specific, deeply practical instruction to bypass this exact neurological trap.
Oh, thank goodness.
The verse actually continues, and it says, "Understand with wisdom and be wise with understanding."
Okay, so it loops them together.
Yes. Kaplan interprets this not as a static state to achieve like a light switch you just flip off and suddenly you are enlightened, but as a dynamic, ongoing process. It is a deliberate oscillation between the two states of mind.
Oscillation. So it's not a light switch. It sounds more like a physical workout. You know, you're lifting the weight, dropping it, and lifting it again to build a muscle.
That's a great way to think of it.
So what does it actually mean to oscillate between them in real time when you're sitting there trying to do this?
Think of it through this truly brilliant analogy Kaplan provides in the commentary. He compares it to a heavy pendulum.
Pendulum, okay.
When you first sit down and try to stop thinking verbally, you might only hold that silent, nonverbal chakma state for a tiny fraction of a second.
Right, just a blip of silence.
Exactly. Before the verbal bino rushes right back in with, "I'm doing it, I'm not thinking." But here is the key. Instead of getting frustrated and quitting, which is what most people do, you just accept that swing.
You let the thought happen.
You acknowledge the verbal thought, and then you purposefully push back into the nonverbal silence. And then, inevitably, the verbal narrator swings back again.
So you are intentionally swinging this cognitive pendulum back and forth between the left brain's narration and the right brain's silence.
Exactly. And just like a heavy physical pendulum in the real world, physics dictates that the longer you push it back and forth, the further and higher it will swing on each pass.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
Right. The more you learn to purposefully oscillate between verbal bina consciousness and nonverbal chakma consciousness, the deeper you will reach into the nonverbal state on the upswing.
The swing into silence literally becomes longer and deeper.
Yes, and you slowly build the cognitive endurance to maintain that pure right brain state for extended periods of time without the sportscaster interrupting.
That honestly reframes the entire concept of meditation for me. I mean, it takes all the pressure off.
It really does.
You aren't failing when the words inevitably come back. You're just experiencing the necessary backswing of the pendulum, which is actually building momentum for a much deeper push into silence on the next pass.
It's mechanics, not magic.
Yeah.
And Kaplan connects this mechanical oscillation to much broader meditative practices, right? Like things we see in other traditions.
He does, yeah. Like mantra meditation, for example.
Exactly. And he completely demystifies why those practices actually work. He explains that things like mantra meditation, where you repeat a single word or phrase over and over and over, are actually mechanical tools designed to hack this chakma state.
So it's a tool, not just a chant.
Right. By filling the mind with a repeated, meaningless, or even just highly focused set of words, you are essentially clogging up the verbal left hemisphere.
You are giving the narrator a busy work assignment, like here, say this exact word 10,000 times.
Exactly. You are keeping the bina side so incredibly busy repeating the mantra that it simply can't generate its normal, distracting, everyday reverie.
It's too busy to comment on the silence.
And this completely frees up the nonverbal right hemisphere to experience pure chakma without constant interruption from the left side.
You know, it's honestly like distracting a toddler with an iPad so the adults can actually have a quiet conversation in the other room.
That is a hilariously accurate metaphor. But Kaplan really stresses here that this nonverbal chakma state isn't just a neat trick. It is the absolute only way to actually reach and perceive the Sephirah.
Because the left brain just can't do it.
Right. You cannot understand them verbally. They're entirely ineffable. You have to use these nonverbal paths of wisdom. The left brain literally does not possess the capacity to process the data of the divine.
Which is such a profound realization. It means that true spiritual comprehension, at least in this specific mystical system, isn't about reading more books or, learning more complex theological arguments.
No, not at all.
It is entirely 100% dependent on your ability to physically alter the mechanical functioning of your own consciousness. Like if you can't swing the pendulum, you just can't see the architecture.
You're locked out of the system.
Okay, but let's say you do it. You put in the hard hours, you've swung the pendulum, you've successfully quieted the inner narrator, you've accessed this nonverbal chakma state, and you can now finally perceive the Sephirah.
Okay, you're in.
My immediate question, and I'm sure the listener's question too, is so what?
Right, what's the payoff?
What is this actually for? Is the goal just to sit in a dark room, completely detached from reality, experiencing this silent, nonverbal bliss forever. Because honestly, a lot of mystical traditions heavily lean toward that kind of escapism.
They do, yeah. Leaving the painful, messy, physical world behind to just float in the spiritual ether.
Right. Is that what Sefer Yetzirah wants us to do?
And this brings us to a massive fundamental paradigm shift in the text. The Sefer Yetzirah argues the exact, literal opposite of escapism.
Okay, I love this.
It tells us that this nonverbal perception is a tool. And it is a tool meant to be actively used to engage with physical reality more deeply and intensely than you ever have before.
Yes. The very next phrase in verse 1.4 lays this out. It says, examine with them and probe from them.
And Kaplan dives incredibly deep into the original Hebrew here to explain what this means. Let's look at these two English words. First, examine and probe.
Let's do it. The Hebrew word used for examine here is bakan. What does that actually mean in this specific, nonverbal, meditative context?
So, bakam means to test things for their intrinsic quality, as they exist in the immediate present moment.
Like a real-time assessment.
Exactly. It is a real-time empirical analysis of a thing. And you really have to notice the preposition used here. The text explicitly says, examine with them. It doesn't say examine the Sephiro, it says examine with the Sephiro.
Wow, okay, this flips the script entirely.
It completely changes the objective.
The Sefer Yetzirah does not tell us to just sit on a mountaintop and contemplate the Sephiro as these lofty, abstract concepts. It instructs us to use them as a lens.
Yes, a perceptual tool.
It's not about looking at the Sephiro, it's about looking through them. It's less like putting on a pair of X-ray glasses, and honestly more like looking at the underlying source code of a website.
I love the coding analogy here.
Right. You stop seeing the pretty images and the formatted text on the screen, and you start seeing the raw HTML scaffolding the code that actually makes those images exist in the first place.
That is exactly the distinction the text is making. And then we have the second word, right? Chakar, which is translated as probe.
Okay, so how is probing different from examining?
While batan is about the immediate real-time testing of a moment, Chakar indicates attaining the ultimate deep, final knowledge of a thing.
The ultimate depth.
Right. And the text says, probe from them, meaning as a direct result of the spiritual power you attain from experiencing the Sephiro in that silent, nonverbal state, you should then turn around and probe everything in the physical world down to its ultimate depth.
So if I'm getting this right, you aren't leaving the world behind at all.
Not even a little bit.
You are looking at a coffee cup on your desk, or maybe a tree outside your window, or even a terribly difficult conversation you're having with a friend, and instead of just seeing the surface reality of those things, you are actively using this nonverbal inner sight to see its ultimate spiritual root.
You are looking past the surface.
You are literally determining which specific sephira that object or situation actually pertains to. You are looking at the code of the coffee cup.
That is precisely it. And Kaplan makes a really interesting historical note here. He points out that when the Sefer Yetzirah was first written, individuals practicing this had to figure these associations out entirely on their own.
Oh, wow, that sounds exhausting.
It was incredibly difficult. They had to physically look at a tree, purposefully quiet their baina, deeply engage their chakma, and use their hard-won inner sight to divine its spiritual root from scratch.
Trial and error mysticism.
Essentially, yes. But over the centuries, Kabbalists have done a lot of this legwork. They've created these expensive, highly detailed lists associating various physical objects, colors, concepts, and ideas with their appropriate sephira.
So they basically wrote cheat sheets for inner sight.
Exactly. They are meant to be used as cognitive aids. For example, if you know from these lists that a certain aspect of nature, say, the flowing of water corresponds heavily to the sephira of cheesed, which represents loving kindness and expansion.
Okay, so water is cheesed.
Right. You can then use that physical water to actively strengthen your spiritual attachment to that specific divine emanation. But the ultimate goal remains exactly the same as it was thousands of years ago. You are meant to gain the deepest possible insight into absolutely everything in the physical world. Nothing is mundane anymore.
Okay, but let me push back here a little bit, because I can hear the listener asking this.
Go for it.
Why does it actually matter that I can see the spiritual root of my coffee cup?
Okay, fair question.
So I know it corresponds to a certain sephira. Great, good for me. Honestly, that feels like a really neat parlor trick for a mystic, but what is the actual tangible utility of this?
And this raises an incredibly important point, because by probing things down to their ultimate depth, the mystic isn't just gaining mystical trivia or like abstract philosophical knowledge.
Right, it's not just about knowing things.
No, as we will see in the final part of this verse, developing this inner sight is preparing the literal groundwork for actual metaphysical change in the physical realm.
Metaphysical change.
Yes, you are learning the intricate wiring of the house so that you can eventually, purposefully, turn the lights on. It is quite literally an act of spiritual physics.
Nihil's physics. Okay, if we are learning the wiring, and if we are using this inner sight to probe the depths of the physical world, what structure are we actually looking at?
We need a map.
We need a map, because the text doesn't just leave us guessing. It actually provides a highly detailed, incredibly rigid schematic of reality.
It does. And to truly understand what you are probing when you look at that coffee cup, you have to understand the four universes outlined in Kabbalistic thought.
Which Kaplan details very heavily in Table 7 of his commentary, right?
Yes. Table 7 is essential reading here. This is the macro architecture of reality. If you want to view the source code, as you said earlier, you really need to know the specific programming languages being used at each level.
Okay, let's break down this table because it is just brilliant. It lists 4 distinct universes in descending order, starting from the highest, most incomprehensibly spiritual level, all the way down to our dense physical reality here on Earth. Let's walk down the ladder together.
All right, starting at the top. The highest universe is called Etzilut, which translates to nearness or emanation.
Nearness to the infinite.
Exactly. This is the primary domain of the Sefer themselves. And because it's so incredibly elevated, so mind-bogglingly close to the infinite Ein Sof, its level is described simply as nothingness, or ayin in Hebrew.
Nothingness.
Yes. It is completely and utterly beyond physical or even conceptual conception.
Right, so Atzilut is just pure, unadulterated spiritual emanation. There's no stuff there at all.
No.
Then we take one step down the ladder and we have the universe of Berea, which translates to creation. The primary content of this universe is described conceptually in the text as the throne, and its level is categorized as something from nothing.
And this is a really crucial philosophical distinction to make. In Atzilut, the level above, it's just pure nothingness.
Right.
But in Berea, we have the very first emergence of a concept of a something. Even though it is a purely spiritual something, it is creation ex nihilo something created out of absolute nothingness.
The first spark of existence. Then, moving down the ladder again, we hit the third universe, which is wildly vital for this specific book we're studying today. This is Yetzirah, which translates to formation.
Right, formation.
The content here is the world of angels, and its level is described as something from something.
Meaning the raw materials already exist from the previous higher universe of Berea, right?
They've trickled down.
Exactly. And now, in Yetzirah, they're being actively shaped, formed, and organized into specific spiritual forces, vectors, and entities, which the text refers to allegorically as angels.
And finally, the lowest universe, the bottom rung of the ladder where you and I live and breathe, is Asiya, which means action or making.
The physical realm.
Yes. The content here is the shade of the actual physical world, and its immediate spiritual shadow. Its level is described very simply as completion.
Now, what is truly brilliant about Kaplan's commentary here is how he explicitly links these 4 universes to the specific Hebrew verbs used for creation in the Bible.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
It shows such incredible precision. He points out that biblical Hebrew has 3 distinct words with very similar outward meanings. They all sort of mean to create or make, but they have vastly different metaphysical implications. And they map perfectly onto the lower 3 universes.
Yes. The 3 verbs are bara, yatzar, and asa. Let's map these out for the listener, because this linguistic precision shows just how incredibly intentional this entire mystical system really is.
All right, let's start with the first verb, bara. Bara means to create, but specifically it indicates creation ex nihilo, making something from absolute nothingness.
And naturally, this aligns perfectly with the universe of Berea, something from nothing.
Exactly. Then we have the second verb, yatzar, which means to form. This denotes the active formation of something from a substance that already exists. Something from something.
Like you're taking existing clay and forming it into a bowl.
Exactly right. And this directly links, both conceptually and linguistically, to the universe of Yetzirah.
And then the third verb is asa, meaning to make it the connotation, which carries the heavy connotation of completing an action, bringing a process to its final, tangible state.
And this, of course, corresponds perfectly to Asiya, the physical world of completion.
I just love this linguistic breakdown. Let me offer an analogy to help our listeners really visualize how these three verbs in these three universes interact, because it really clarifies the hierarchy of the whole thing.
Please do. Analogies are the best way to grasp this.
Okay, think of the creation of a physical published book, like a novel you buy at the store.
Okay.
The verb borrow creation from nothing is like a brilliant author who suddenly, completely out of thin air, comes up with an entirely original, groundbreaking concept for a novel while they are just walking in the woods.
The spark of inspiration.
Exactly. The idea simply didn't exist a moment ago, and now it does. That's Berea.
But an abstract idea floating around in an author's head isn't actually a book yet, right? You can't read it.
Exactly. So then comes the verb yatzar, forming something from something. This is like the editor, or maybe the structural writer, who takes those raw, brilliant ideas from the author and begins actually shaping them.
Giving them form.
Right. They organize the erratic thoughts into chapters, they structure the paragraphs, they build the narrative arc, they decide the pacing. The raw material was already there, but now it finally has form and structure. That's Yetzirah.
And yet, even with all that beautiful structure and form, you still cannot physically hold it in your hands. It's still just a manuscript file.
Right. So finally, we need the third verb, asa, the completion of the action. This is the printer.
The physical printing press.
Yes. The printing press that takes the highly structured manuscript, presses wet ink onto physical paper, binds it with glue, and turns it into a heavy physical object you can buy at a bookstore. That's asiya.
That is a completely perfect encapsulation of the descent of reality through these universes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of what we're doing today, it explains the very title of the book we're studying.
The Sefer Yetzirah.
Exactly. It is called the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. It's importantly not the Book of Berea, the Book of Creation, or the Book of Azia, the Book of Action.
It's situated right in the middle.
Right. Furthermore, in this specific context, the text refers to God specifically as the Yatzer, the former.
Because the entire focus of this specific mystical manual is that middle step. It's the editor's desk. It is entirely focused on the universe of Yetzirah.
Exactly. The advanced methods of the Sefer Yetzirah involve the deliberate, conscious manipulation of the forces of the universe of Yetzirah.
Because it's the bridge.
Yes. It is the vital link, the connective tissue, the semi-permeable membrane between the abstract, totally ungraspable spiritual realms of Absolute and Berea above it, and the dense, heavy physical world of Asiya below it.
So God is manifested here as the Yatzer because he is actively forming the spiritual forces that will subsequently cast their shadow down to become physical reality. So bringing this all together, when we are using our inner sight, our nonverbal chakma consciousness to quote-unquote probe the physical world of Asiya, what we're actually trying to see is the hidden scaffolding of Yetzirah just beneath the surface.
We are looking past the physical.
Right, we are looking at the printed book, but we are actively trying to read the structural edits that were made before it was ever printed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You are looking for the spiritual vectors, the specific combinations of forces that animate the physical object in front of you. You are trying to perceive the form before it became matter.
Okay, this brings us to the absolute climax of verse 1.4. This is where it all comes together. We've mapped the cosmos from the unknowable Ein Sof all the way down to the physical world of action.
You've built the map.
We've learned how to shift our brain hemispheres to access inner sight, and we know we are actively looking for the Yetzirah source code. Now the text delivers the payload.
The big reveal.
It reveals the ultimate responsibility of the human being within this vast, terrifyingly huge system. The final lines of the verse are this: make each thing stand on its essence, and make the creator sit on his base.
And this is exactly where abstract mystical theory transforms into immense, very practical responsibility.
Yeah.
This is the physics of the spiritual world we were talking about earlier. Let's break down these two commands, starting with the first: make each thing stand on its essence.
Right. Kaplan says this directly parallels what we were just talking about regarding inner sight. When you use your nonverbal consciousness to deeply probe a physical object, and you successfully perceive its true spiritual nature, its essence in the world of Yetzirah, you actually functionally elevate that thing spiritually.
It's an active process.
It is. The text uses the word standing to refer to this act of spiritual elevation.
Think of it, going back to your analogy, as consciously relinking the physical printed book back to the brilliant structural ideas of the editor.
Oh, I like that.
By perceiving the connection, you actually strengthen the connection.
Yeah.
You reinforce the bridge between Asiya and Yetzirah. You make it stand.
But the second half is where the mechanics get truly wild. The text says, and make the creator sit on his base. Kaplan spends a lot of time on the specific Hebrew word used here for base, which is makan.
Yes, makan is a deeply significant, highly technical term in Kabbalah. It comes from the root kan, which is also the root of ekin, meaning to prepare.
To prepare.
Okay. Therefore, makan doesn't just mean a generic physical foundation, like the foundation of a house. It specifically refers to a base that has been purposely, meticulously prepared for a very special purpose.
It's a landing pad.
Exactly, it's a prepared landing pad. The Talmud actually interprets makan to indicate a strict parallelism between the spiritual and physical domains. It is the prepared basis through which God actually channels his spiritual influence into the world.
But it explicitly requires preparation. It requires a receptacle to catch it.
It does, and then we have this very fascinating, highly anthropomorphic language of God sitting.
Right, which sounds weird at first. God doesn't sit in a chair.
Right. But Kaplan explains that in a biblical context, when a person sits down, they physically lower their body.
Okay, that makes sense.
So when the text speaks of God sitting, it is a metaphor indicating a lowering of his essence. It is a conscious act of God lowering himself so as to be concerned with and actually interact with his creation.
But he doesn't just lower himself randomly, right? He lowers himself to sit on the makan, the base that has been prepared. And the huge question is, who prepares it?
Who builds the landing pad?
We do, by elevating the objects. And this is exactly where Kaplan introduces what might be the single most foundational rule in all of Kabbalah. It's like a law of spiritual thermodynamics, if you will.
And it is a game changer.
The rule is every awakening from below motivates an awakening from above.
That rule is the engine of the entire mystical system. It dictates that spiritual energy does not just flow downward unprompted. It requires a vacuum, a pull, a strict demand from the lower world to actually draw it down.
Okay, wait, let me pause and push back here for a second, because honestly, this heavily borders on magical thinking.
I know it sounds like it.
Right, like you're telling me that if I just stare at a coffee mug on my desk and I successfully use my right brain to contemplate its structural essence in the universe of Yetzirah, I am literally rewiring the fabric of the cosmos. How does Kaplan's interpretation separate this from just, I don't know, imaginative delusion? How is this not just the secret or manifesting, but dressed up with ancient Hebrew terminology?
That is a vital, vital distinction to make, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
It is categorically not magical thinking because it is not based on human desire or human whim.
Okay, unpack that.
You aren't just sitting there wishing for a Ferrari and expecting God to drop one on your prepared base. You are actively engaging in structural alignment.
Structural alignment.
Yes, the makan is a prepared circuit. That awakening from below requires actual, intense, cognitive heavy lifting to perceive the Yetzirah architecture.
It's hard work.
It is exhausting work. And when human consciousness, which is, importantly, uniquely the only entity in creation that possesses roots in both the physical world of Asiya and the spiritual worlds above it, when it makes that connection, it acts as capillary system.
A capillary system, like pulling water up a tree.
Exactly. It creates a structural vacuum. The Shefa, the divine energy, fills that vacuum by sheer necessity of the system's physics, not by divine whim or magic.
Ah, so it's literally like a siphon. If you take a tube and suck the air out of it, the water from the higher bucket naturally flows down into the lower bucket simply because of physics, not because the water wanted to move.
Right.
We're creating the suction.
Precisely. Let's synthesize the actual mechanics of this so it's perfectly clear. When a person, meaning you, the listener, uses your non-verbal chakma consciousness to probe a physical object, you perceive its spiritual essence.
Right.
In doing so, you mentally and spiritually elevate that object. You make it stand, as the text says. This act of human cognitive elevation is the awakening from below.
You are sending a signal up the chain. You are completing the electrical circuit.
Exactly. And because of the ironclad, unbreakable rule of the system, that awakening from below must trigger an awakening from above.
It has no choice.
None. In response to your cognitive action, God lowers his essence.
Yeah.
He sits upon this newly prepared base, this makan that your consciousness just built.
And what actually happens when God sits on that base? Like, what flows through the siphon?
He channels spiritual sustenance, which in Hebrew is called shefa, down into that particular object. You have successfully drawn pure spiritual energy from the higher universes completely down into the physical world.
That is unbelievable.
And Kaplan explicitly states that this sustenance, this shefa, can then be channeled and used by the individual And under certain very strict conditions, it can be used to actually bring about physical changes in the world.
You are literally binding Yetzirah, the world of formation, directly to Azia, the world of action. You are acting as the conduit for reality.
Yes.
It's like the spiritual energy is just sitting up there in the clouds and the physical world is down here starving. And nothing happens until a human mind acts as the conductive wire, reaches up with inner sight, elevates the physical, and actually allows the Shefa to flow down and energize the world.
It completely reframes the entire human experience. Your daily life is no longer mundane. It can't be.
No, everything has stakes now.
Every interaction with the physical world, every single object you observe, every conversation you have, is a profound opportunity to construct a makan, to trigger an awakening from above and to pull Shefa into existence. You are not a passive observer of reality, you are the mechanism by which reality actively sustains itself.
This is just astonishing. Let's try to seamlessly recap the massive, massive journey we've just taken today, because we covered a phenomenal amount of ground in literally just one verse of the Sefer Yetzirah.
It really is a masterclass in both mystical architecture and cognitive psychology, all wrapped into one tiny verse.
We started by facing the truly unknowable infinite, the Ein Sof, and learning that we absolutely cannot place God on our spiritual ladders. He is 10, not 11.
Right, he is beyond sequence.
And he is distinct from his creations. He is 10, not 9. From there, we learned that to even engage with this wild system, we have to endure the pendulum swing of our own minds, purposefully bypassing the verbal narrator of the left brain, the bina, to access the pure, non-verbal, holistic consciousness of the right brain, the chakma.
We learned what it actually means to understand with wisdom.
Yes. And once we achieved that inner sight, we realized it wasn't for escaping the world, but for probing it deeply. We mapped the cosmos, looking past the physical printing press of Azia to actually see the structural blueprints, the source code of Yetzirah.
We learned to read the code.
And ultimately, we discovered humanity's immense power and terrifying responsibility. By elevating the physical world through our perception, we build the prepared base, the makan, actively pulling divine spiritual energy, the Shefa, down into our reality through the law of awakening from below.
We literally become the bridge between the infinite and the finite. But you know, this raises an incredibly important and perhaps slightly unsettling question for you to consider as we wrap up today.
Oh, I'm ready. What is it?
If the flow of this divine sustenance, this Shefa, strictly relies on the ironclad rule that an awakening from below is absolutely required to trigger an awakening from above, what happens to a society that stops probing reality?
Oh, wow. That is a chilling thought.
Right. If we collectively lose the ability, or simply just the desire, to examine the world with this inner sight, if we stay permanently trapped in our left brain verbal reverie, constantly scrolling and narrating, treating physical objects as nothing more than dead matter, just things to be consumed and thrown away, does the physical world become entirely starved of its spiritual energy?
It's like a garden no one is watering.
Exactly. If no one is building the makan, does the divine have anywhere left to sit? I really invite you to consider how you will look at the ordinary objects around you tomorrow. Will you just see a coffee cup, or will you see an opportunity to awaken the universe?
That is a profoundly haunting and honestly beautiful thought to end on. Because it all really does come back to counting, doesn't it?
It does.
We started by talking about how simple it is to count. 1, 2, 3. How safe it feels to just measure the surface of things and assume that's all there is to reality. But this text actively challenges us to realize that true reality isn't found in counting the physical apples in the basket.
Not at all.
It's found in perceiving the invisible spiritual roots of the tree that grew them, and then actively pulling the sunlight down to feed those roots.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly deep exploration of the Sefer Yetzirah today. Please don't forget to hit up Ben-Had's TikTok. Make sure to heart, share, save, and comment, and we will see you next time as we continue to dive deep.